Hey, what is up everyone? This is Music Tech Help Guy and welcome to part 30 of my Logic Pro 11 Essentials course. In this video, we're going to jump into automation. So automation is a mixing, and it can be a creative technique that allows you to control and change different parameters of a mix across time. For example, maybe I want to take a vocal part somewhere and pull up the volume, but then maybe also pull down the volume in a later part. So this allows you to control different parameters across time in your mix. Things like volume, pan, plugin parameters, send levels, aux track levels, track stack levels. Almost any parameter in Logic Pro can be automated. Now, in order to show automation in Logic, you're going to press A, and by default, most tracks are going to load up with track automation and volume as the starting parameter. But again, you can see there are many different parameters in here that can be controlled. Automation can be entered in two different ways, either by using what's called offline automation, meaning that you're just clicking and drawing in the automation breakpoint envelopes like this. You can also do it with the pencil tool if you want to draw in automation freehand. And then there's real-time automation, which means that you are using a control surface or a MIDI controller to draw in parameters in real time. You can also do this with your mouse just by clicking and dragging parameters in real time. But I think real-time automation is a bit outside the scope of this course. So I'm going to mostly skip real-time automation in this course, and I'll save it for a mixing course coming soon. I do already have a video on real-time automation. It was done in Logic Pro 10.7, I believe, maybe 10.8. The process is basically the same, and I'll link to that video in the comments and description below if you want to check it out. Automation also has two different levels where it can be applied. It can be applied to the track itself, hence track automation. But if I click on this, I can switch over to region automation. And this is automation that's applied to a specific region. Ultimately, it's up to you whether you prefer track or region automation. But in general, I tend to use track automation for making mixing changes, like automating the volume or plugin parameters. And I'll use region automation when I'm using MIDI continuous controller messages, like modulation wheel, for example, which I demonstrated in part 9 of this course. Things like pitch bend, which is technically not a CC, but it's similar. And other sort of creative effects where I want the automation to be just bound to a single region. So in this video, I'm going to mostly work with track automation, but I will show you some other examples with region automation at the end. Hey everyone, before we get started, I want to introduce to you Boombox, today's sponsor. If you're a musician, producer, or engineer, this platform is here to revolutionize your creative process. Boombox offers secure file storage for all of your audio files, from single tracks to full projects. You can invite collaborators to join in on your work and even set up custom inboxes for clients to send files directly to you. Networking is key in the music industry, and Boombox makes it easy. Create a unique artist profile to showcase your talents, search for potential collaborators, and curate playlists to share with the world. And don't miss out on Boombot AI. This smart assistant can help you brainstorm lyrics, generate MIDI ideas, and streamline your workflow. Check out boombox.io today and grab your 4 GB of free storage. Okay, so to hide and show automation, like I said, you just press A on your keyboard. This will hide and show automation on all of your tracks. By default, you will see that volume is the starting parameter. You can choose what parameter you want to automate here from this menu. So if you go to main, you'll see things like volume, pan, solo, and mute, your send levels, different insert bypasses. And then you'll also see things like plugin parameters, like all of the EQ parameters, all of the compressor parameters, etc. So just as a real simple example, let's say that I want to pull up the first phrase of each of the verses a little bit, just because it's a little softer than the rest of the verse. There's really 3 ways you can do this. One way is you can just click and then click again to create an automation point. And this creates a breakpoint in the envelope. So I could do something like this, where I ramp this up a little bit, and you can grab just the middle part here and move this up or down. So I could do something like that. Or if I wanted to do this a little bit more quickly, I could use the marquee tool. And with the marquee tool, you can drag over an area to make a selection, and then just click and drag up or down to ramp up the volume there a little bit. So let's maybe just add like 1 dB there at the beginning of the first verse. And yet another way to do this is if it's something a little more fluid, you can use the pencil tool to draw in automation curves. And likewise, if you have like ramped automation like this, like a fade in or a fade out with automation, you can also grab the automation curve tool and click up or down to create exponential and logarithmic shapes, or drag left and right to create different S-curve shapes. And if you need to delete automation, you can just drag over it and hit delete. So I, generally speaking, like to use the marquee tool for this. So maybe let's go over to our second verse as well. And you can see that the very first part here is a little softer. So let's go ahead and pull that up 1 dB as well. And one of the things you'll see here is that as long as the mode here is set to read, and this little option here is green, that means that automation will be red on that track. And so when I play back the track, if you watch the fader here, you'll actually see the fader jump up 1 dB and then jump back down when it comes back down to unity.
You've got your secrets, but they don't faze me. I see love in your eyes and trust in your smile. We've hit the bottom but 1,000 times.
Maybe I want to pull this point over a little bit, just like so.
Smile. We've hit the bottom but 1,000 times. Never again. Just stay right here with me.
So sometimes what I'll do is, like, if a certain section is just not coming through very clearly, I'll do like a quick little ramp up or down, like little half dB, 1, 2, or 3 dB rides that help bring out certain words or certain phrases that are just not, you know, coming through in the mix.
Never again. Just stay right here with me. When we tear down all these walls, just stay right here by my side. I'm never gonna let you fall. I'm never gonna let you fade away. Never gonna let you fall, baby. Never gonna let you fade away.
Yeah, here where I've got like multiple vocals going on at the same time, maybe the lead, I want to bring that down a little bit, just so it's more of like a background effect.
Gonna let you fall, baby. Never gonna let you fade away. No time to waste.
And you can also play around with pan. If I want to switch over to pan, I just choose pan. And you'll see there's two options here, absolute and relative. We'll talk about that in just a bit. But let's set this to absolute pan. Maybe I want to create a panning effect here in the vocal. Maybe I want this to be over to the left here, and then here I want it to be center, but then here I want it to be a little bit over to the right. So you can create these like creative panning effects as well.
Fade away. Ooh, baby. Never gonna let you fade away.
And if that's a little too harsh, you can try sort of ramping it over and moving it over. So this is helpful if you want to create like, you know, stereo motion in your mixes for, you know, creative effects.
Ooh, baby, never gonna let you fade away.
And then in the mix,
You fade away. Never let you fall, baby. Never gonna let you fade away.
or maybe I could do something like this and have it slowly come back to center.
Never gonna let you fade away. Time to wait.
There's all sorts of cool things you can do there. I generally find panning automation to be a little more useful with software instruments, you know, for musical effects with your instruments. Now, if you have a bunch of automation on a track that you no longer want to be there, you can select that track and you can go up to Mix, Delete Automation, and there's a bunch of different options here for deleting automation. But this one in particular is Delete Visible Automation on selected track. So that'll delete all of the pan automation, but it won't delete my existing volume automation. Let's go over to the first verse and, you know, do some automating here as well.
You've got it all, but you can't break free. Just
The ch in you. I know there shouldn't be a ch in you, but you is a little loud there, so maybe pull that down.
All, but you can't break free.
Let's try honing in on just that one consonant.
All, but you can't break free. Just sleep right there in your frozen state. You've broken down, but it won't break me. I'm here for you. I feel for you, darling. When we tear down all these walls, you've broken down, but it won't break me. I'm here for you. I feel for you, darling. When we tear down all these walls, just stay right here by my side. I'm never gonna let you fall. I'm never gonna let you fade away. I'm never gonna let you.
Let's go over to the chorus.
Just take it slow. Give it time. What's another year, another life?
So maybe here on the backing vocals, I want a less of the backing vocal here, but more here. So you can actually apply automation to multiple tracks at the same time using the marquee tool. So just drag over the area where you want to make that change, click, and then drag up or down. With multiple tracks selected, you can make changes to multiple tracks at the same time.
Just take it slow. Give it time. What's another year, another life? Tell me now under the setting sun.
Maybe here as well.
Tell me now under the setting sun. 'Cause when you finally wake up, I'll be gone. Don't tell me that you're faithless. Tell me that you feel less. I told you that we're running out of time.
Maybe I want to make the drums and the verses a little softer than the rest of the song. So here's like the main drum track here. If I just select that whole area there, click, let's pull that down a couple of dB there. And so now my drum track's going to be softer in the first verse than it is moving into the pre-chorus. And maybe I want to create a little ramp here as well. You can click and you can double click on points to remove them. Let's just zoom in a little bit more here. Let's double click on this to remove it. And then I have kind of a little ramp up to negative 5.4.
Feel for you, darling. Take me, I'm here for you. I feel for you, darling. When we tear down all these walls, just stay right here by my side. I'm never.
Now, let's say that you've made a bunch of automation changes to a track, but you still want to pull the volume up or down relative to the automation that's there. One of the tricky things about automation is it controls real parameters on the channels. So, you know, you can see that the fader on this channel is moving around because it's being controlled by the automation. Let's say that I want to pull up the lead vocal channel like 1 or 2 dB, but I want to pull up all of the other automation as well. Well, if you go into volume, go to main volume, you'll see there's an option for relative. And this allows you to trim the relative volume of the track up or down. So if I want to add like 1 dB to that whole track, I can do that without messing up the existing automation that's there.
You've got it all, but you can't break free. Just sleep right there in your frozen state. You've broken down, but it won't break me. I'm here for you.
Now, another thing you can use automation for is to control your send levels. So remember, in a previous video, we added 3 effects on aux tracks here to the vocals. I'm going to pull these up so they're right under the lead vocal there. And remember, the send level is going to affect the level of each effect in the mix. So let's say that in the pre-chorus, we want to hear a little bit more reverb, but in the verses, I want to hear like almost no reverb. What I can do is pull up automation on that track, go to main, and then go to the send that you want to adjust, go to absolute, click on the track. And again, let's say right here at the pre-chorus, we want to hear more reverb. So what I'll do is I'll pull down the send level at the verse, but then pull it up at the pre-chorus. Likewise, if I come over here to my second verse, maybe I want to pull down that reverb again, but then just have it come back up in the pre-chorus.
You've got it all, but you can't break free. Just sleep right there in your frozen state. You've broken down, but it won't break me.
So almost no reverb at all.
And when we tear down all these walls,
and when we get to the pre-chorus, we hear a little bit more of it. Likewise, I could do the same thing for the modulation effect. Maybe I want almost no modulation effect in the first verse here, but then I want to hear more of it in the pre-chorus.
I feel for you, darling. When we tear down all these walls, just stay right here by my side. I'm never gonna let you feel for you, darling. When we tear down all these walls, just stay right here by my side. I'm never gonna let you fall.
So again, it's completely up to you how you want to, balance these effects. But this gives you full control over these things across the timeline. And if you want to look at multiple automation parameters at the same time, just click right here and you'll see all of them. So you can see I made a volume adjustment. I made a relative volume adjustment. I made an adjustment to the send 1, which is reverb, along with the parameter that's on the track, which is send 2. And if I select display off, you can actually view the waveform normally, but then see all of the parameters below. And right now I'm missing send 2. So what I can do is hover over the bottom lane here, click the plus button, and it'll automatically add it there, or you can select it manually. So this is a great way to see all of your automation parameters all at once, and then just click again to hide them. Now, let's say I wanted to bring in a little delay effect right here at bar 81.
We can touch the sun.
There's many different ways you can approach this, but if I just put the delay directly on that channel, let's go to the tape delay, and let's make this like an actual like time synced delay, like a quarter note maybe.
And never let go.
What I can do is I can automate the dry and wet signal. Actually, the dry signal is just going to stay at 100%, but I can automate the wet signal to come up just where I want that delay to be, and then I can pull it back. So if I have the dry at 100% and the wet at 0, you're not going to hear any delay whatsoever.
Touch the sun and never let go.
But what I could do is I could hit A and then go to the tape delay plugin, and then find the wet parameter, and I could automate just that one word. So it's the word sun, and then pull it back before the next lyric comes in.
The sun, and never let the sun, and
maybe we'll pull it a little bit more forward.
The sun, and never let go.
And then we can go into the tape delay and we can filter out the delay so it sounds a little bit different from the dry vocal.
The sun, and never let go. The sun, and never let.
Maybe we pull it down even a little bit more.
The sun, and never let go.
That's one way to do it. You could also put the tape delay on a completely different channel and automate the aux track. Let's actually do that. That's the way I prefer to do it. So let's go ahead and just create another send. We'll go to bus 10 this time. And bus 10, we're going to create a track out of that. And we'll pull it up here. We'll just call this delay effect as opposed to a slap delay. Let's add the tape delay on there. We can keep the quarter note delay. We'll just kind of filter it a bit, set the wet amount up, set the dry to 0.
Sun.
If I option click on the send, that's going to pull that up.
Sun, and never let go. Just break these chains before I'm gone.
So you can hear there that the delay's happening everywhere. But what I could do is go to my delay effects track and just pull that all the way down, and then I can use the volume of the aux track to bring that effect in and out as I see fit. So maybe I want to pull it in here.
Touch the sun and never.
Just a very faint delay in the background there.
Touch the sun and never let go. Touch the sun and
pull it in a little bit more.
The sun and never let go, girl. Just break these chains before I'm gone.
Maybe a little bit on this very last line here. So it's a really cool way to bring these effects in and out without having to use them all the time. And, you know, I may even want to add some reverb to my delay effect. I can do that by adding reverb on that channel directly, or I can create a send to go over to my actual reverb channel. So I could create a send from an aux track. So this reverb was bus 1. So let's create a send through a bus going over to bus 1, and now we're going to get a little bit of reverb on each of these delays as well.
Touch the sun and never let go, girl. Just break these chains before I'm gone.
Now, one last thing I'll show you here that you can do with track automation is you can automate the master VCA to fade out your song. What you're going to do, create a track for the master fader in your song. And you do that by right-clicking on it or control-clicking on it and selecting Create Track. And all you do is you hit A, and you can adjust the level of the master fader as well. So what you do is you just click somewhere where you want the fade to start, click where you want the fade to end, and pull it down to negative infinity, and you've created a fade out for your entire song.
Don't tell me that you're faithless. Tell me that you feel this. I told you that we're running out of time. You know we've got to grow up, create the season, sow them. I told you that we're running.
Or we could use the automation curve tool to maybe give it a little bit more of an exponential fade out.
Faithless, tell me that you feel this. I told you that we're running out of time. You know we've got to grow up, create the season. Feel this. I told you that we're running out of time. You know we've got to grow up, create the season, sow them. I told you that we're running out of time.
So that's really like the proper way to create a fade out for your song. I'm not going to do that for this particular song, but I did want to show you how to do that. So I'm just going to go up to Mix, Delete Automation, and Delete Visible Automation on selected track. And then just make sure that the master fader is back to Unity. And now we're back to where we were before. Now, sometimes when you're, especially when you're working with collaborators or you're working with clients, you may get mixes where there's a ton of automation already in the mix. If you want to delete all of the automation that's in a project and completely start from scratch, you can go up to Mix, go to Delete Automation, and then select Delete All Track Automation. And this will start you from scratch, and you don't have to worry about any of that pre-existing automation. This is one of the reasons why I primarily use track automation for mixing, because I may want to start over at some point. And if I have a bunch of region automation, that function is not going to delete region automation. You're going to have to go do that on a track by track basis with that visible option I had talked about earlier. Now, speaking of region automation, I'm going to need to jump over to a different project, and I'll show you how to use region automation to control plugin, effects plugin controls, along with synthesizer and software instrument controls and other sort of creative effects. So I'm going to jump over to another project for that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so next up, I am going to show you how to use region automation for creative effects. Although I just want to clarify that anything I show you here can also be done with track automation. It's just a matter of where that automation is stored. Is it stored within each region, or is it sort of on top of the region on the track? Now, if you have a synthesizer like Retro Synth here that has like an effect built into the modulation wheel like this, when I roll down the modulation wheel, it's pulling down the filter cutoff here. When I roll it up, it's rolling up the filter cutoff. Now, if you just want to record those types of things in real time, all you have to do is record, enable the track, hit R, and then play in the modulation wheel. So So that's a form of real-time automation. But when you hit A, you'll see it doesn't automatically show up here. But if you click the track button here to switch this over to region automation, you can then go to that menu, go to modulation wheel, and there it is. You can see that modulation. But you can also use this to draw in shapes that maybe are not possible to play in real time. So let's go ahead and start from scratch. Let's go up to delete automation, delete visible automation on selected track. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this region and I'm going to cut it up into 4 individual regions, just like so. And I can hit A, make sure I have a region automation shown, go to MIDI control, choose CC1, which is modulation wheel, and I can click on these and you'll see each one of these can have its own independent modulation wheel automation. So I could start with something like this where it's all the way up and then maybe sweep it all the way down. And I could do that for each individual region if I wanted to. So I could start all the way up, come all the way down, and so forth and so on, just like that. And then when you copy or repeat these, you'll see that that automation stays with the region. Now, another way to do this, if you don't want to use modulation wheel, is you can directly control any parameter inside of a software instrument. So let's go ahead and just delete that visible automation. And in RetroSynth, the parameter we want to control here is the filter cutoff, the low pass filter cutoff. So if we go in here, you'll see that the RetroSynth itself has automatable parameters within it. So let's go to the filter, let's go to cutoff. And instead of adjusting the modulation wheel, now we're just going to be directly controlling the filter. So maybe I wanted to do something like this, where I start low and then I kind of ramp up at the midpoint of the region. I could maybe do something like that. And maybe I'll do that for all of these regions. And again, so we're just automating the cutoff frequency within the RetroSynth. And you'll see this parameter actually moves. Now, let's say we have other parameters on here that we want to automate. Like, for example, I have this tremolo effect that's on the track. As is, it sounds like this. Let's say that I want to start off without that effect and then slowly bring the effect in. To do that, you're going to automate the depth of that effect. So once again, I'll come up here to the automation parameters, find that specific plugin. There it is, the tremolo depth. And I can click on each one of these, starts at nothing, and I can ramp it up to 100%. And I'll, again, just do that for each one of these regions, just like so. And then maybe we want to apply additional sound design with some reverb. Maybe we want to start off with a lot of reverb and then not a lot of reverb. So maybe I can start with the wet signal at 100% here in the reverb. And what I'll do is I'll grab the ChromaVerb wet signal here. And again, it's at 100% right now. But maybe by the third beat, maybe I want to pull this down to like 50%. So I can do that for each one of these regions. And if I click here, I can see all of that region automation. So we're affecting the wet signal of the reverb, we're affecting the position of the cutoff frequency, and we're also affecting the depth of the tremolo effect all at once with automation. And one one cool thing here too is if you join all of these together, all of that automation will stay in place. And sometimes, honestly, when you're working, you know, with like 4 chords like I was there, it's easier to look at this way than it is to look at you know, as individual regions, mostly just because of the endpoints are a little harder to get to when you're using shorter regions like that. And don't forget about your automation curve tool. You can create different shapes with these as well. So maybe I could do something like that. So go crazy with automation. It's really cool for creative effects and sound design like this, in addition to being an incredibly helpful tool for mixing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to see more content like this. As always, thank you so much for the support, and thanks for watching.